like they were basically just getting shut down at every corner. You can pull that up too. Like scientists who look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what you're searching for, looking for what you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched it.
Sorry.
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Joe Rogan getting humiliated by Trump. Trump is doing Trump things. Kyle Kulinski is getting into it. I'm giving some of my commentary. Let's watch.
Is up to now. Trump plans to withdraw the U.S. from Paris Climate Pact, open some national monuments to drilling. President-elect Donald Trump's transition team has prepared executive orders and proclamations that would withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement and open up Western lands for drilling and mining, according to a report. Trump's energy and environmental transition team, tasked with drafting these actions, includes his former Department of the Interior Secretary David Bernhardt and former Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Andrew Wheeler, the New York Times reported on Friday. Now, by the way, just so everybody understands, one of the tricks that Republicans often do is when they pick somebody to work at the EPA, they usually are a coal lobbyist or an oil and gas lobbyist, or they have an understanding of the bureaucracy and the regulatory state because they're used to evading the regulators. They're used to being on the opposite side of that equation. So their job when they get in there is to basically handcuff these agencies to make it so they don't do their job and regulate big business and try to prevent pollution, etc. So, classic. We knew he was going to do this. A lot of the people who voted for Trump didn't know, but we knew this was going to happen. Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Accord early in his first term, arguing that it was ineffective because it allows countries to voluntarily restrain their own pollution and seeks to hold the U.S. and other industrialized countries to a higher standard. All you need to know is that this line of argument is bullshit. The reason why we needed to curb back more on carbon emissions is because we do more carbon emissions. Right? Pretty simple. Yeah, the Paris Climate Agreement means we have to roll back a lot more because we're already doing more emissions. This isn't like a hard puzzle to put together here. And then they say, during his campaign, the president-elect routinely pledged to once again withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement immediately upon taking office. Trump's transition team has also readied proclamations that would redraw the boundaries of the Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante national monuments in southern Utah. The president-elect reduced the amount of land under management by the federal government at Bears Ears by 85%, and at the other one by 47% during his first term.
Yeah, don't even get me started on, the government caring about the environment. We've literally wiped out 90% of large fish. This, cod, sharks, we've wiped them out. Like they're no longer here. That's 90%. And then, we've degraded a pretty good amount of the forest. I'd say about like 2/3 of the forest, the mature tropical forest. That's, sort of the lungs of this planet. We have places like Jackson. We have places like Flint. The drinking water is almost, that's a big problem. So not only it's starting to fight back, the environment's starting to fight back on how much we don't care about it. But it's obvious. It's obvious that that it's corporate profit. The fossil fuel companies they hold the biggest sway over the U.S. policy. They serving, again, the government's always going to they're always going to serve the corporate interest, not the people, not the fact that we're running out of water, we're running out of fish, we're running out of water, we're running out of fish, we're running out of life. But they don't care about that. They only care about them running out of money.
Following an expansion under the Biden administration. So in other words, he's making the national park smaller and smaller and opening it up to commercial interests and letting corporations have a field day with them. So there you go, man. Paris Climate Agreement, pulling out of that. To anybody who would make the argument that Democrats and Republicans are exactly alike, you need to understand that's complete and utter horseshit. Are they too similar? Yes, I think that's fair to say. But are they exactly alike? No, because, for example, with Democratic administrations, they believe in climate change and they want to do something to fight back against it. The Inflation Reduction Act, the Paris Climate Agreement, etc. Whereas with Republicans, they don't believe in it. Trump famously said it's a Chinese hoax. And then now he's pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement again, and he's destroying our national parks. That's great. So, Joe Rogan endorsed Trump after he came on his podcast. And, Trump is against virtually everything Rogan pretended to stand for a very long time. And when I was reading this article, I was reminded, do you remember when Candace Owens went on Joe Rogan's podcast and they viciously debated climate change, where Candace was saying it's fake, it's not real, it's a hoax. And Rogan was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. And he was repping the climate change is real position. Remember that? Here, let's watch some of it.
The real problem is with climate change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. I mean, it was one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schoch. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
well, what website is
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
Yeah.
Yeah, .com though. Like that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and
well,
I don't trust
Scientific
it.
American is not necessarily a random website.
Scientific American is a .com. They're making money, so I don't trust them. Scientific American. And then she goes, well, maybe if it was a .org, I would believe it. By the way, they go on to pull up a .org, and she keeps denying
And
it.
the upsetting thing here is that Kyle Kulinski is going to say that, both sides are very different, that one cares about the environment, and that's just not true. They're both owned by corporate power. I get that, there's political branding, but they're both parties behind the scenes. This is a growth-driven machine. This is capitalism at its finest. Whenever, Joe Biden, he approved the Willow Project. That was in Alaska. It was a massive oil drilling project on federal land. We have the fracking that's going to be supported by Clinton, by Obama. It doesn't stop. They want to let you know that they do care, that they're not as evil, but they really are just not, I wouldn't say evil, but they're all serving the same purpose, which is to make money. And at that point, it's clear they're sacrificing the ecosystem for short-term profit.
Oh my God. See, this is old school Joe Rogan. When he still had his finger on the pulse to one extent or another, when he still had one foot, at least, in reality, tearing apart Candace Owens for being dead wrong on climate change.
I don't believe this at all, just so you know.
You don't believe it at all?
I
mocking her to her face for not believing in climate change.
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely don't believe it.
I believe most of the
87%?
time the consensus of scientists that are studying the data.
Right.
And so what they're doing is
But do
studying.
you remember all of the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show, they were basically just getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up too. Like scientists
mean?
who look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what
But
you're
wait a
searching
minute,
for,
but
looking for what
why-
you're not looking
That's not
for.
what I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched it.
Sorry.
Instead of looking for what you're looking for, why don't you look for the opposite? And he's like, I wasn't looking for this. I just typed in information on climate change or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, look up.
But
look
this
up,
is my question.
Yeah.
Why are you so sure? This is
No, because what you just said. Because what you
this
just
is an
said.
extremely complicated subject.
And it is. I said I am not so sure that I would die on the hill for it. My opinion right now, and is just that it was a means, because forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know for a fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Global warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question
but
is
it's
why
always
has it happened?
happened.
Yes, it has always happened.
So what is the
real-
climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today. The climate is forever changing. That's the problem, is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
it's
no,
not
that's
unique.
not. You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate
Right.
change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping
Right.
point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control.
Old school Joe Rogan. Old school Joe Rogan. So this guy who argued directly to Candace Owens' face, effectively, that she's a fucking idiot and she's a liar and she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about climate change because she doesn't believe in it. This guy ended up endorsing this guy. The guy who is planning to withdraw from the U.S. Paris climate agreement again, by the way. And that's why this is unforgivable, in my opinion, right? This is why it's unforgivable, because Joe Rogan knows better. He's smart enough. He knows better. You think he doesn't know, or he didn't know, that, hey, Trump in his first term poll.
So there we have it, you guys. And it's deeper than just not caring about the environment. But, as you stop really caring about this global cooperation, which Trump is doing, which is not just seen with the Paris Agreement, but with the tariffs, he is not wanting to cooperate globally. It's a breakdown of this liberal international order that we're now going into a lot more nationalism and this corporate militarism. It's a very, which in a very dumbed down way, not a dumbed down, but like a 5-cent answer is going to be it's just selfish. We're just running into a lot more selfish culture. And that is the most depressing part of this all, that we're not really caring about other people even around us, but especially not over the world. And we have to share this thing together. At the very end of the day, we're not going to be able to build a tower that gets away from it. They already tried that, and they changed all the languages. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.